Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mind Over Mountain with me, Cheryl Strayed. This week, my guest is Olympian and skeleton racer Mystique Ro, who competed recently in Milano Cortina. She talks to me about how it is she finds calm even at the highest speeds, and about her work increasing access and diversity in the sledding sports. She also helps me answer a Dear Sugar letter from a bride-to-be. Let's listen to our conversation. Mystique Ro, welcome to Mind Over Mountain.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is awesome to be here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to talk to you. I watched you in the Olympics recently in the Milano Cortina Games, of course. You were part of the U.S. Olympic team, and you competed in both individual skeleton and the new debut mixed team skeleton, of course. And I went back and watched those videos again of you sliding down that scary ice track. I wanted to just begin by asking you if you could please take us inside yourself, your mind and your body, as you do that, what looks to most normal people as like a very scary thing. And I ask this because I think skeleton is a really kind of unique in this way, where if we watch a runner, like I can be like, yeah, I know what it feels like to run. Like I know what that action is, or playing basketball, or, fill in the blank. But with these sled sports, and I think especially with skeleton, it starts off looking like you're about to do a sprint. You're crouched down there. You start up as a sprint, and then you dive onto this tiny little sled, and off you go. And then it just looks like you're sliding. But I know there's so much happening inside your mind and body. So could you, dear Mystique, take us inside that, like a race, a slide? I don't know. What is the word for it?
A run. That's actually what we call it. So,
Okay,
yeah,
got
funny
it.
enough, yeah, like you're pretty spot on for the observation. And, I highly recommend people try it if you would like. We have 2 locations, Lake Placid or Park City. But the main thing is, it looks chaotic, but for me specifically, it's probably, when things go right, it's probably the most calm, like I'm feeling. So when I approach like a race, like I did my warm up. I do everything because my background is track and field. So I did my sprint warm up, my dribble series, all that stuff that kind of get the reaction and the quick, fast twitch muscles ready to go. And so obviously the speed suit it takes a minute sometimes to put it on because it's pretty skin tight and you want to get your mobility situated. And it is cold. So I keep my clothes on as long as possible. My coat stays on, the pants stay on, and then there's a countdown my coach goes through. And generally speaking, my mind's pretty blank. Like I am usually pretty kind of swaying a little bit. Everyone's different at the line, but for me, I'm very calm. I'm not thinking about anything specifically. And the only thing I'm really tuned into is my coach doing a countdown for me. So as it works down the clock before my run, I start stripping off different pieces of clothing. And then when it's finally time to go, I get the announcement, track is clear for Scout start for Mystique. There's a beep. My coach hands me the sled. So again, my brain's not really thinking about anything. I'm just going through the motions of like the motor pattern. Once my foot gets in the block and I hit my foot in the ice, I do my breathing like I did in track, my breaths to relax everything. And then I count the wind up, I back up, and then I push. So the push is 5 seconds of pure explosivity. So again, my mind's not really thinking about much, but it's just like push, 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 push. And then it finally gets to the point where you're going to either fall or you're going to just get on the sled. So you load. The second my chest hits the sled, I have to slow everything down. My heart rate, my breathing has to be more controlled. So it's more of going into the autopilot feeling. Because all throughout training, I'm thinking about all these different things I'm working on. But for the race, everything gets overly simplified. So when I'm on the sled, I'm looking through with my brows, because these muscles get really tired over time. I try to relax as much as possible, and I'm just going through the rhythm. So every track I have to associate with a rhythm of some kind. And so that's kind of like my metronome of sorts. I kind of think of it, the rhythm of it. And breathing is my steering. So breathing out. So everything's about fluidity. So it's kind of like, think of like a shark when they're swimming. It's very chill. And it's not a lot of movement unless they had like a mistake or a mistake. They're trying to make a quick turn. So I try to keep everything very low heart rate, very calm, very cool, collected, which is funny because there's some spots where you see a skidding and it's like, okay, if I freak out, it's going to be bad. So I got to just let it run. So let it happen and it'll straighten out. So it's kind of this balancing act of overriding your natural instincts or your natural inclination to overcorrect or change something, because you're going over a mile of ice, 80 plus miles an hour, and you only have like these runners who are slightly bowed. It's like this much contact on the ice. So you have to really commit to it and you have to just accept it. A lot of sliding is just acceptance, honestly. And that's kind of, once you accept that and that's how it is, it's a lot smoother. If you don't fight the sled, it's actually a really nice ride.
It's really fascinating to me to listen to you describe it, because it is obviously, it sounds like you've had to do a lot of obviously physical training, strength and speed and all those things, but so much mental work, because as you know, this process you describe is like kind of giving over to what the body already knows, like, keeping your nervous system calm, letting that the training that you've sort of, those motions, like letting them come to their own naturally rather than overthinking it. What have you done in terms of formal kind of, I guess it almost sounds like mindfulness training or mental training? Do you go through a whole course in order to get to the level that you have in skeleton to do this, achieve this kind of mental control?
It's varied over the years. Like when I first started out, like again, track and field, most tracks are the same shape, same, dimensions. Some might vary a little bit, but it is what it is. Every track we go to is different. And so with that, there's different complications, different technicalities you have to learn. So every week we are resetting to kind of acclimate to the new track we're at. So over time, what I found is like my normal go-to is very flowy stuff. So I try not to get wound up. I don't listen to very loud, chaotic music. Like my teammates in the weight room might listen to something that's really harsh or very choppy feeling. And for me,
Right.
I listen to classical music. I listen to like Josh Groban, Celine Dion, something that's very more melodic and smooth. And then when it
Right.
comes to actual sliding and training, like my recall or my mind runs that I do, which is when we're visualizing the track, it's much softer. So I actually found I had a very successful season a couple years ago when my teammate and I, who traveled together, we watched Avatar: Last Airbender, and a lot of it is martial arts. So the learning how
Right.
to kind of like when we unplug from sliding, kind of like we're kind of all encompassed thinking about fluidity all the time. And there was one year I was actually on a lower circuit development. I was doing a lot of Tai Chi. So honestly, a lot of it is martial arts or that type of meditative thinking to kind of help keep things from getting too wound up very quickly. Because again, we're going 80 plus miles an hour. I don't need to help it go faster. I just need to help, like, I need to breathe with it. So learning how to do less has been very important for us.
That's so interesting. I'm struck by you saying you feel incredibly calm when you're going that fast. But of course, I'm going to guess when you first when you were first like me, where you're just outside of the sport and watching somebody else do it, my reaction is that looks scary. What
Yes.
about you? Did it look scary to you at first?
Yeah. So actually, when I first heard about the sport and actually because no one really knows how do you try out for skeleton or bobsled, you just see it on TV and that's kind of it. So I
Yeah.
happened to get on the inside at one point and I tried out, did a combine, and I was looking at bobsled specifically because I was like, you should try skeleton. I'm like, no, not a chance. Not going to do that. And
Yeah.
then they're like, well, just think about it. I was like, sure. And then I come up to like Placid to do like the rookie training camp, and I pushed both sleds, but it wasn't until November that year, which was like November 2017, I actually got on a sled and I went down at like the halfway, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing this. This is insane.
Yeah.
It looks as chaotic. It feels just like that. And there's like no rhyme or reason, I guess. That's not really a good selling point. Like, yeah, you'll feel great. Like, no, because you don't really know what you're doing. There's nothing to compare it to. And
Right.
so I'm doing a really bad job at selling the sport, but it's really challenging to like learn how to let go of control. Because in track, I know how to strategize a 400 meter, whether I execute, it's different, but on a skeleton sled, it's physics, it's ice coefficient, it's like, it's texture. There's all these things you don't know about in the beginning because you're so new, but all has an effect. And then it's cold. I don't like the cold. And actually I have like a thing I call it, I'm allergic to ice. Like if my skin touches something cold, I'll break out in hives. So it's like a lot of things that weren't lining up. And it just like, yeah, try skeleton, come back. And I was like, it's just a really tough thing to like wrap your head around. But it's like, it doesn't feel safe at all because you don't know what you're doing and you can't see anything because it's going so fast for your eyes. And it's only 40 miles an hour. So a lot of it was just like, okay, I can't bring my preconceived thoughts from what I know of sport into this. I have to be completely open-minded and accept that it's going to hurt for a little bit because you're going to ping pong until it slows down for you. So that's kind of where visualization really came into play.
And I should say, for listeners who aren't literate in the sled sports, there's essentially bobsled, luge, and skeleton. And could you just briefly explain the difference between these three?
Yes. So bobsled is the one most people know from the movie Cool Runnings. Specifically the four-man. So historically, it was the disciplines of two-man, two-woman, or four-man. And recently, for the Beijing Olympics 2022, they added monobob for women to add another discipline for them to have another medal opportunity. Luge is the discipline where they go feet first. They actually are the fastest sliding sport, and they go from either singles or doubles. And both genders have doubles or singles. And then for skeleton is the head first discipline. So I call it like the human penguin. And essentially we are probably the slowest, and I would go pretty fast, but the deemed slowest. And our runners are a little bit different. So because of this nature of the sled setup and everything, we have round runners. So versus luge as kufen. So we're slower, but we're head first. Luge is fastest and their feet first. And then bobsled is like the big vehicle sport. So we all use the same track nowadays. Back in like the 1900s, there was different tracks for luge, bobsled was different, skeleton and cresta were different things. So to make these more economical across the globe, we all use the same track nowadays.
You know, to me, instinctually, you're saying skeleton goes the slowest, but it seems the scariest. And I think it's about physical vulnerability because not only are you head first, which immediately, like, I think most of us are like, if something scary is ahead, we'd rather put our foot out to it rather than our head. But, you know, also face down. Like it just seems like a very kind of vulnerable position. How did you come into even these tryouts? I think I read somewhere that the amazing Alana Myers-Taylor was sort of influential in getting you involved in the sport.
Yeah, so I heard about the sport in like 2010 when Steve Holcomb was sliding, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And kind of didn't think about it since then. I was, you know, and I might have been like a sophomore in high school. So it wasn't until college, which is much years later. And she reached out to, like, she sent an email blast to recruitment coaches across the country saying, hey, we're looking for athletes. And so my coach happened to get an email from her or somehow connected. And I was actually sleeping on my teammate's couch, who my coach was asking you should go try out because she was like an NCAA champion and I was not. And I was just kind of bumming it for just a little bit. So I just happened to tag along and that's how I got connected. And so from there, as I mentioned, like, yeah, bobsled, that sounds cool. You know, like, why not? And skeleton, pass. Not a chance. And they kind of like allowed me to think that. But when I showed up, they saw my height and they were like, you might want to try skeleton. I was like, I mean, I could try it. So I pushed a bobsled pretty decent, but it's a mass sport and a lot of the girls were a bit bigger, at least at the time of my recruitment. So skeleton, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And the only reason I think this worked out is because at that time of my life, I was like, just try everything. If something comes up, an opportunity to say yes, give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, move on. And I survived my first run down the track from the halfway point. And all the while, like, I think I might have bumped into Alana like once that summer. And so I was like, okay, so this is, and I was just starstruck. And it was just like, I went on a deep dive. And so like, it took me years before I could talk to her, like on a normal, like one-on-one basis. But I was just seeing all these Olympians at the training center and I was okay, like, you know, what separates us from them? So, and then at the point, a lot of it was just knowledge. Like, how do you slide? How do you push a sled? So from there, it was just like, do I want to do this? And this is kind of like ignorance is bliss. Like, you don't know really what's involved at first, like financially or logistically. I'm like, I'm young enough. Let's give it a shot. So it's kind of how it happened. And occasionally when I finally did work up the courage to talk to Alana, I would use her as like kind of like a mentor and consult with her about different things that I was not sure about. But yeah, it was a interesting origin story. I wasn't even the intended recruitment. I just happened to be there at the right time.
But you did, you know, from those early days of being intimidated to talk to Alana, and who wouldn't be? She's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But then you ended up going to the Olympics with her, and there you are, teammates together. What was that like for you? What did the Olympics mean to you? What did it feel like?
Yeah. So for me, I think I was in a unique position where when I first came out into the sport, it was the season's 2017-18, so going into the Korea Olympics. So I've actually been a part of the team for 2 Olympics just as a development athlete, just watching how it happened. So I learned a lot. I learned what not to do, what to do, who to lean into, how to navigate these spaces. And consistently through it all has been Alana. And Alana is a very seasoned athlete, you know, as a, you know, woman of color, an athlete of color, and just a decorated athlete in the field. So a lot of the mentorship that I leaned on was from her, just because she had the unique perspective that I needed that was actually geared towards, you know, my path. And so through all this stuff, she's had like a instrumental influence on my career as far as like me venturing out to try different things, actually get on the map. And so finally, after like a very arduous season, you know, I qualified and I'm there. And so my races is my, like, just taking it all in, just racing for the individual, the debut event of the mixed relay, and just being there, you know, and just being there with Kelly Curtis, who is now a 2-time Olympian and a first-time Olympian as a mother. It's just a lot of history was being had this Olympics, and it was just cool just to be there. And simply for Alana, I'll tell a quick story. Like, I was at the finish dock waiting for her, and they were the last 5 athletes, I think, for monobob. And I'm probably where I'm not supposed to be, but I'm there because I'm cheering and I'm recording, and I'm just being really supportive. And then she comes down, she's in second at the time, or sitting in first, waiting for the Germans to come down. And then I'm recording the live reaction. And then as everything's screaming, celebrating, it's a really fast turnaround to get from the finish, the camera, to the podium. And then I'm being handed a child. I got Nico in my hands. I was like, oh, hi, Nico. And I'm trying to sign with him. And like, I got to carry him. So we're running around, and like, you know, I'm in the family area. I'm not family, but I'm over here, you know? So just being in proximity, and like, Nick, her husband, like, they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, they trust me with their kids. And so it's anything that I could have done to help them over the seasons. Like, I'm playing with the kids, or wrestling, or, you know, dancing, whatever, but it helps them, you know, have at least go get a meal to eat. So I think it's just, we built a really cool bond. It's like going from being intimidated, now I'm like playing with her kids. And so that's been a really cool experience.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, to develop, and like, yeah, we just be chilling, you know, and mom just won a gold medal. Nico's over here and we're just celebrating. It's just really cool.
It's so inspiring, Mystique, because I know what you mean about how important and powerful it is for you. I mean, a lot of people help us along the way, and they can be very different from us sometimes, and they can give us the thing we need. But it really does help when we see somebody who we have something in common with, and they can sort of help us see that there is a path. And Alana was clearly that to you. I'm curious if you have a sense of yourself now, being that to younger athletes of color.
Yeah, it's been interesting because like very early when I came in, like 2017, 18 season, I think they did a commercial. Team USA did some type of commercial paying homage to Vanetta Flowers, which was Alana's, you know, like North Star. And then Alana was the connecting point for a lot of athletes into there. So Alana's had a huge impact. And so there's so many women of color now that are on, like, filling the roster. And then we have like a wider bandwidth of who we connect to. And so for me specifically, I'm unique because I'm in skeleton, not bobsled. And so it's been really interesting, just like getting perspective from myself and another athlete who, you know, might be trying to come up and like, hey, what is it like? And then you start with an initial, like, yeah, like you travel a lot. Like, no. What's it like for you? And I was like, oh, okay. So that's when we kind of have these honest conversations, because at the end of the day, it is a very unique niche sport that has very unique challenges to most of the people in the demographic that I'm kind of similar to. Like, track and field is pretty open. It's in the South. It's warm. It's accessible. Winter sports in general are not the most accessible, and they're very expensive. And so there's been those challenges over the years where people have said things that are very, you know, off color or just rude and implying a lot of things. And so not tiptoeing around this conversation, like, hey, like, this might happen and I'll give you heads up. This is who said it, you know? So just being honest, because like most of the time we're all adults. And so it's like, I like people to be in the sport because they want to and not going blind, but they also need to know, like, this is what's going to happen. This is what could happen. And I think for the most part, we've trended in a right direction, but it wasn't always that way. It was very challenging, the bidding for me. And that was only 9 years ago. So the athletes that are coming in now, I think we do have a nice community where we are honest with each other and provide opportunities, or just like, hey, like, this marketing thing didn't work for me, but maybe work out for you. So trying to keep athletes in the sport as long as possible by offering support and solutions for being able to stick around as long as possible, because a lot of it is money based. So when opportunities arise, we do share with each other a lot. And then when there are opportunities to speak to certain athletes, when groups come in, like, they usually gravitate towards me, certain ones. And so then I seek them out because I can see that they're kind of like uncomfortable. And so bridging that gap so that we don't feel out of place necessarily. Because I was never on ice sport. Like I watched Shawnee Davis speed skating, and I thought that was the coolest thing, but there was no speed skating track around me, so I couldn't do it. So I would just rollerblade in the cul-de-sac in my neighborhood, and that was my experience. But
Right.
when you finally get to see these venues in person, and it's like overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, like this is cool, but I don't see anyone that looks like me or has my background. That's a huge bridge to gap, you know. So if athletes are present and actually have this communicate, like can talk and share their experiences, it helps bridge those gaps, and then that kind of opens up the room for diversity or just interest with the fan base. So that's been a really cool experience for me, especially since I work at the track as a tour guide. So I'm able to see and kind of have those conversations with people when they have those questions.
What is your background? You grew up in Virginia, is that right?
Yeah, so the DMV. So I'm actually from California. So that's my first 4 years. But then my dad, being a Marine, moved to the East Coast. So we would bounce between Maryland and Virginia. And then I'm one of 11. So this is the big piece here. So I moved to Charlotte to get away because I wanted my own room. And that's when I went to college. So for the most part, I've been in a relatively warm climate just for my entire life, track and field, soccer, softball. So to do the complete jump to a winter sport was a massive change for me.
Do you feel like that in any way sort of contributed to your, like, who you are today in terms of as an athlete?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So in the breakdown, 11 kids, I have an older half brother, and then I'm a twin. But so there's 8 boys and 3 girls. So for me, I'm the second oldest, but for all intents and purposes, I was like the captain, if you will. So like under the parents, I was in charge. So
You're the captain of the team.
I am the captain of the team. So I'm doing a lot of the parenting when my parents are absent. So I was in charge of a lot of that stuff logistically. So that would be like the elder sister role. And so for me in sport, you know, I wasn't always necessarily the oldest, but I kind of would see things differently from a managerial perspective, I guess.
Right.
And so then from that standpoint, I was able to kind of be like the team mom. So I was always in that role my entire career whenever I did stuff. And so, especially in college, because now I have literally a team full of women, and like, so I'm checking in with them, and I'm like, you know, I'm not the most talented athlete, I'm not the most decorated athlete, but you know, I did the multi, so I can understand people's perspective because I did a little bit of everything. So people felt comfortable enough to come to me, so I was like the team mom in that role. And so when it came to skeleton, it just seamless, same thing. And then originally, like when I first started out, obviously I'm brand new, so I'm very observant, just kind of watching how things work. But as the athletes came up from under me, and getting into the sport and trying to learn stuff, I became a point of contact, or at least like a consultant. So, and then eventually I was able to find things. So then it's like, hey, can you help me find this piece of equipment? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then it'd be easy for me. So it kind of just was something that just was a role that I was given from a long time ago, and it's just kind of stuck. So I've always been that.
Right. You know how to be a caretaker and a leader.
Yes.
And all of that. I mean, even when you said right before you begin, you like rock you sway to calm yourself, which is I mean, the image that came to mind is, as you probably well know, like that's how you soothe like a baby, right? Yeah. And that's a very like we just innately know that this calms us, you know? So it's fascinating. But, you know, one part of this podcast, you talking about all your siblings brings to mind a Dear Sugar letter I received. So one part of this podcast is me getting you to help me answer. So can I read you the letter that we're going to talk about this week?
Yes.
Okay. You got to help me on this. Dear Sugar, I'm the second oldest of 5 sisters, and I'm having trouble figuring out how to deal with some tense family dynamics that have come up as I plan my wedding. My fiance and I got engaged a couple of months ago and immediately began planning a wedding for early next year. I love all of my sisters very much, but I'm closest to my older sister. Our closeness is probably due to a couple of things. We're only 18 months apart, and our other sisters are 4, 5, and 7 years younger than me, respectively. Of all of our sisters, my older sister and I have the most in common in terms of shared interests, activities, and career paths. We were even roommates for a couple of years in college. I knew even before I got engaged that I would want her to be my maid of honor. I've already asked her, and of course she said yes. The problem is that my parents expect me to ask my 3 younger sisters to be my bridesmaids. When I told them my plan was to ask my 2 best friends to be my bridesmaids instead of my sisters, they got quite upset about it, especially my mom. I'm the first of all of us to get married, and my parents told me that they believe that it should be automatic that all of my sisters are in my wedding party, no questions asked. I disagree with them, but to be clear, it's not that I'd leave my younger sisters out of my wedding. I'd like them to read something as part of the ceremony, and that would be very meaningful to me. But I want my two best friends to be my bridesmaids alongside my older sister. Am I being a bridezilla by believing I get to make this decision for myself? My parents tried to convince me to have 6 bridesmaids so I could have all 4 of my sisters and my 2 friends in the wedding party. But my fiance is an only child, and he doesn't want to have to pick 6 friends just so his side is even with my side. I'd appreciate your advice about this, Sugar. I love my big, unwieldy family, and all of my sisters are extremely important to me. I don't want to hurt or offend anyone, but I also don't want to be forced to alter my wedding just to please my parents. As for my younger sisters, they don't seem to care one way or the other if they're bridesmaids. They know that no matter what, they'll be an important part of my big day. What do you think? Do I have the 4-sister wedding party of my parents' dreams to keep the family peace, or do I put my foot down and do what feels right to me? Signed, Big Family Bride. Okay, Mystique, what do you think?
Whew. I'm siding with the bride on this one.
Me too.
It's challenging for sure, but like, I mean, if you do it right, you get one wedding, right? And
that's right.
It's tough because it's like if the sisters were really worked up about it, that's we kind of I think sway a little bit, but they're just there to party. They just want to celebrate. But also on the groom side, like I don't got a lot of friends so I would be asking either. So like now I got to find 5 more, 6 people. That's a lot.
Yeah. It is.
I guess it's like, it's weird that the mom is so, or the parents, both of them are so invested in it being like a whole family thing, right? Because I think we didn't get the perspective of the older sister, which I think is interesting. But like, obviously, I think the mom has the most weight on pressing, like, you know, she wants it. But I think I don't know, like, I'm not really a big fan of when parents overly like assume a role, especially when it comes to like, because it's already very stressful. It's like, you know, so it's just, that's adding more emotions to something that's really tricky already. But I'm gonna side with the bride in this one. It's her day. Yeah, it's their day.
Yeah, I mean. And I completely agree. And to me, I feel like at core, like whenever I get any letter, I'm always like, okay, the situation is sort of up here that was just described to us about all these siblings and the expectations of the parents and the wedding. And weddings already heighten things anyway. But at core, this is ultimately about a couple of things. And they are, first, boundaries, like setting a boundary, and also teaching your parents, which I think every adult has to at some point kind of teach their parents, like, okay, you know, now I'm in charge of my life and you aren't in charge of my life, you know, and that can be painful, you know, for both sides. So to say respectfully and lovingly, I think, Big Family Bride, to your parents, like, I understand you have a vision of this day and it's different from mine and my fiance's. And now I'm at the time of my life where I have to make decisions with my partner. And I am totally, you know, going to involve all of my beloved sisters in the wedding. So rest assured, nobody's going to be left out. But I'm going to have to disappoint you. And, you know, sometimes when we set a boundary, we do have to disappoint people. And that's okay, because it teaches them that you are in charge of your life, right? I'm curious, did that ever... Has anything like this in your, I mean, big family? Like, have you ever had, I mean, you can't always include like 11 people in everything, right? Like, are you, I know I'm going to assume you love them all, but this dynamic, she is like, listen, I'm just closer to my oldest sister, you know? Has that come up in your life?
Yeah, I think a unique way, like, I call us litters. So like there's 11 total, but we were kind of grouped together. So like the ones that are like the 90s kids, and then like the early 2000s and like the little like the teens. So they kind of grew up in different, you know, realms, because they like the 90s kids are like the last millennials, and then it's like the early Gen Zers and then Gen Z. So we grew up differently. And so our exposure to different things, like I didn't have a cell phone. Right. My siblings, younger ones do. Yeah. So we bond differently. So I'm closer with a little bit older one just because we have shared experiences. And I think what was challenging for me is like again, there wasn't that time where all 11 of us were in the same house at the same time, because obviously it's a huge age gap. But there was times where there's football practice over here and there's gymnastics over here. Someone's going to miss something. And so it's like, there's times where I've had award ceremonies for like our team was undefeated in soccer or some event, and I maybe track and field, and we were trying to do team photos, and my dad misread an email. We were going to football practice and there's no football practice. So not only did we not go to football practice, but I didn't go to the pictures for my team. So there's always going to be this disconnect where it's like, something's got to give, or, but hopefully, communication's clear across the board. But you have to understand that at some point there has to be a line has to be drawn. And it's like, hey, like we need to make sure we prioritize certain things and whatever's more important in this situation, or, and the thing in this case with this is a huge like segment of your, like, I don't know, like life moment. And
it's a big day. It's called that for a reason.
It's huge.
Right?
Yeah. And so like for the bride, like, not to be like a right down, like there's always something that could potentially happen on the wedding day, whether, and obviously you don't want anything to happen, but like, you don't want to carry more stuff into that as far as like the preparation, because now like you don't want to feel like you're tiptoeing around someone, or you're trying to figure out how to manage feelings or keep the peace, because you want to be happy to celebrate something that this is huge. And so I think I agree. Like there's a point where at some point you have to have these conversations, and hopefully it's civil enough where it's like, hey, we can agree to disagree about this choice, but at the end of the day, I have the final say. And so I think that's the thing, is like that moment where parents have to realize their kids are also adults, and they have to surrender some of that, control back, or those choices. And it's challenging for sure for parents.
How have your parents been? How have they responded to your career? And have they been supportive of your journey as an athlete all along the way? Were they encouraging of that when you were a child?
For sport, it's always been something I've been doing. So I think early on they realized that that's something I needed to do. So I bounced between gymnastics, softball, soccer. So I think they've been very supportive of that coming up. And I think, actually, I got into track because my dad told me my running form was terrible. And I was very offended by that, but I was okay, let's go to this track camp. And so I went to the local...
What was wrong with it?
Like, what did
you see in it?
Like, I was trying to think, was like, it wasn't like I ran like a robot or anything. It could be my, like, I don't know, like, you don't have like the strength maybe in the core to keep everything more linear. I don't know if my legs are turning out a little bit, or just, I don't know. It could have just been the form was bad, but he just said like, it looks bad, because I did soccer. So I was like, I don't know if it's because like I dribbled a ball or something. So he never clarified that, which always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, so that kind of put me into a track camp at the local high school, and I participated, and they were like, oh, you're kind of quick. And I was like, okay, whatever, that's what you want to be as a kid. So eventually I did track, and that's kind of what got me in there. So then that's when I had to like learn about decisions. So up to this point, I was doing band, I was participating in different club stuff. And because of the scheduling, like you can't do it all. So that's when my dad had that conversation, like, if you're going to do something, you got to commit to it. And I really didn't want to do that. I was like, I want to do everything. But that's just when I started reading different books, and like I read up on like Michael Phelps, I think at the time, and just or there was a book on something about, focusing on your energy on certain things. So I committed to track and field, and eventually that's what got me a scholarship to go to college. And so from there, if you're going to go to college, you got to pay for it. I'm like, well, I don't have $30,000 laying around, so let's go get a scholarship. So they've been very supportive in the sense of how it's allowed me to be able to have opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise had. And so when it comes to skeleton, I didn't tell them how much it cost, because that was going to be a lot of like a different conversation, but just what's involved. Because it's like you're traveling a lot, and I was away for college, and so the logistics wasn't the problem, but it was more of, are you happy doing the sport? Do you like it? Because there's a lot of the stuff that I talked to Alana about was just happening. Like there's racial things, there's opportunities, there's just politics. There's a lot of things that are going on. So my mom's actually been a really big role, and like she'll listen to me. She's like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, I didn't think so either. So she's like my little consultant from the outside, but she doesn't actually watch me slide because it terrifies her. So when
really?
I post stuff on, she's absolutely mortified. She's just like, because I came back one time and my arm was covered in bruises. And she's like, oh my God, what happened? I was like, I missed the exit. She's like, what does that mean? I was like, don't worry about it because you don't want to hear what happened. Because like I could give a whole detailed thing. She don't want to hear that. So actually when I post up on social media, she's on a 2-week lag. So she doesn't actually see it. She started to understand Instagram a little bit more, but she's like, oh my God, what this happened? I was like, that was 2 weeks ago, Mom. I'm over here now. So, so I kind of keep it light and I don't really get too much into it. And actually it wasn't until the Olympics that they did a watch party at the local bar and she actually watched me go in real time. She's never done that because she just stressed.
Wow.
And I think she had like some liquid courage to help watch because it was just chaotic. Because the commentator's talking, obviously, as you're going, you make mistakes, they get more animated, everyone's screaming and shouting. So she's getting like, her nerves are flooding. And then she's like, I got to take a nap. That was too much. I was like, it was actually a good run, Mom. There's only a minute, but it's been fun just kind of seeing the evolution of little Mystique doing gymnastics and now she's an Olympian. So it was like this huge moment of like coming full circle. Like she just thought about it one moment as a kid and now she's actually on TV for the world. So she's been really supportive with that, which has been really cool.
It's astonishing. I mean, I'm sure they're both incredibly proud of you. But what about you? What is your highest triumph to date? What is your proudest moment? And whether in the sport or in your life, what comes to mind when I ask you that question, your proudest moment?
It's cliche, but like the journey coming up there's been a lot of things that negated or told me I shouldn't be here. Financially was the big one, but in the beginning of my career, actually, I'm trying to remember. There was a motivational speech clip from Bishop T.D. Jakes, and it was, don't let money be the reason why you don't follow your dreams. And I was like, well, I'm kind of broke, like classically broke. And so I was like, oh, how do you make this work? And so
like actually broke. I know. Don't you love the people who say they're broke and they actually have like, it's just that they don't want to draw from their savings account or something? Yeah.
I'm like, no, like it's
no, like
giving
zero.
Dust bunny is, nothing's here. And so
it's giving no money no money at all. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I've been there, girl. I know.
It's tough. And what's funny is like the team I actually travel with, Dan, he's like, oh, I'm broke. I'm like, no. You have the money. You just don't want to put it towards this yet because you don't know if you like it. I don't got anything. And it took him a while to understand that because like that was like our cultural differences because he doesn't like, why would you say broke? Why would you say you don't have any money? I'm like, because it's just broke. You broke. So understanding like these different things and like pieces that were like telling me I shouldn't be here. I couldn't do the sport. And I made it. I'm here. And like there's people who into my face, like, you don't deserve to be here. And, like they've since left the sport and, I qualify for the games. And there's points where I had a massive allergic reaction and I was like taken out for a little bit, so there's different things that are like along the way that have been like huge roadblocks. And I would have been in my rights to like, okay, I'm done. This is over. Like, but I said, no matter, I'm going to figure this out. I want to be Olympian. I'm like, and originally track and field was what I thought, but the girls nowadays are very fast. And I was like, I don't have it like that. So just being able to pivot with those thoughts, like, like, hey, like maybe it's not this way. So let me find another way. So making the dream happen no matter what, it's been really crucial to me. Like my whole journey is just, it doesn't have to be following the script. It doesn't have to be exactly the way I planned or I envisioned it. You have to be adaptable. And I never thought I would be throwing myself down a mountain. I'm scared of roller coasters. I don't like, so like, how do you mentally come up with like, okay, head first down a mountain, 80 miles an hour, no seatbelt, no nothing. Yeah, sure. Do that. And it's like, why would you do that? And my mom's asked me that all the time. It's like, trust me, it's not as bad as it looks. But then I hit something. She's like, it looks as bad as it. I'm like, okay, that one hurt. But like most of the time, it's not like that. So it's just been.
So that one was as bad as it looked.
Probably worse actually, but it just there's certain things that just like line up, and then like when things go good, it's great, it's amazing, and I think that's what we're chasing. It's that feeling.
I love what you said about that it's not about a moment, because that to me like it, the moment is like you're standing on the podium or you have that prize or that medal or that you win that run or race, but the deeper truth is it is about that journey. And it's not a moment, it's day after day after day showing up. And I love also what you said about that, the economic aspects of a sport like this. I think almost any sport to reach the elite level, you need a lot of money, but I think it's particularly very much in these sledding sports, it's even more. What advice would you have to other people who like you and I, like I too grew up poor when I When I said my family was broke or I was broke, I didn't mean that metaphorically. I meant we actually have $0.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we, show that path to other people behind us who don't have that economic privilege that others do have. What advice do you have for athletes who come from backgrounds that aren't going to be like, yeah, here's all the family money that can support you along the way?
I think for me, it was finding out if you like the sport. And accessibility, obviously, to that point is very difficult. Like, there's only 2 locations you can do this in the US, Park City or Lake Placid. Both are relatively remote from the general population. So, like, once people get there, then it's like, hey, cool. Like, there's people who, like, really fall in love with the sport, but then they see the price tag up front. Like, before you can actually race, this is how much it's going to cost. And it's a massive, like, invoice. And so, actually started a nonprofit to like, hey, like, let's cut the initial, like, let's find the equipment, because the spikes we have are $300 something. You can't go on Amazon and find them. They are from a guy in a warehouse in Germany that you have to email and you have to meet him on the right day, otherwise you won't respond. The helmets are imported from one guy or is made by another guy. So, like, you have to know the right people to have these communications. So if you're brand new, like, if you want to try the sport, you wouldn't have that contact. I've been in the sport long enough and I've talked to enough people, I happen to find this information. So my presence here, which I would say is part of the whole Team Mom, was like, I found it. Just tell me what you need and I'll get it. And then we'll figure it out. And so mitigating that initial, like, reason and like, well, I can't do so because I don't have a helmet. Here's a helmet. Here's the spikes, So, and the main thing when I talk to athletes is like, you need to know if you like it first. Before you try to do the TV stuff, do this promo, make the merch, see if you like the sport. Because it's very different. It's an acquired taste. It's not something you can really compare to anything else you've ever done. And for the most part, you don't really know what it's like until you actually go on tour. So we can slide in the US all winter long, but until you actually go to Europe, go to China, go to Korea. At one point we went to Sochi in Russia. Can't do that now, but like, you don't really know what life is on tour like, because your work schedule changes, your time zones, your loved ones, you missing birthdays and holidays. So a lot of it is just, you need to know if you like the sport first. So you need to get the exposure without the pressure of investing so much up front. So dropping thousands of dollars on some helmet, spikes, and a speed suit, and then you're like, this isn't for me. Now you have $1,000 worth of gear that you can't just sell anywhere because it's very unique to the sport. So you have to resell it to someone else in the sport. So it's like a lot of these things you're trying to like mitigate. So if we want to try to have the best retention possible, making it accessible to people. So finding people who are going to be in your corner or want to support or not threatened by your presence of trying to join the sport.
Did you say you started a nonprofit?
Yeah. So it's called Project Push to Gold Fund. And that took me forever to figure out the name because it was specifically for bobsled and skeleton. And pushing is one thing that separates us from luge. Bobsled skeleton pushes, bobsled pushes upright, skeleton pushes bent over. So the nonprofit was designed to help athletes get equipment. So because I have these contacts that I couldn't tell you how I found them, but like I people reach out to me over the years and I've acquired pieces of equipment. So like old spikes, helmets, speed suits, and for better or for worse, depending on the condition, I'm able to hand out stuff to people because they donated, or if people donate funding to help get this equipment, then I can, like, if someone's coming for the first time, like, hey, I need spikes for this training camp. Cool. Here's some spikes to use for the training camp. And then I get it back. And then I kind of keep it in the system for athletes that come through, just to kind of try the sport out. So it started out with just trying to fill a void because our federation wasn't able to source equipment for athletes in real time. And that kind of created a barrier of entry and a stressor for pilots that are trying to put a crew together for bobsled, because you have a 4-man team has 3 athletes that have no spikes, and collectively that's over $1,000 worth of gear, So, hey, here's a hand-me-down or burn vest. And then that was the big thing. Burn vests are something that are made of Kevlar, but there is technically a lifespan of it, but they're very hard to find and they're expensive. So the cheapest thing to do is to hand out a burn vest that's 5 years old, that's been worn and tried and true because it's been used because someone crashed. And the problem is the integrity gets lost over time, helmets and burn vests and spikes. So we don't want to put athletes in a vulnerable position because we don't have the right equipment for them that's safe. So my big thing was trying to source stuff that's safe for athletes to use so they can try the sport and not have any like overhanging thoughts of like, maybe this is compromised. I don't know if this actually feels right. And it's just like, let's strip away another variable and let's just try the sport out. So that's kind of like where the
strip away another barrier too.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So What is next for you? You are, I'm imagining, I mean, what have you been doing in the couple of months since the Olympics? Have you been like I know you're a guide at Lake Placid, but what about like are you taking some time away from like, competing, or are you gearing up for the next thing? What's next? What's happening now and what's next?
Yeah. It's funny because like actually maybe a week or so after I got back, someone asked me, hey, like, how you feeling? I was like, I'm fine. What do you mean? Like, how you feel the post-Olympic blues? I was like, no, like I didn't do well enough status-wise or was in the public eye to be able to like, yeah. But I think what actually...
Oh, honey, you did great. Are you kidding me? Okay. Just for the record, you did 7th in the mixed team skeleton. Okay. 7th.
Yeah.
Okay. There's that's a lot. And then in the individual skeleton, you got 15th. What are you talking about? You didn't do great. That's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's amazing, Mystique.
Thank you. Yeah. I've
welcome.
Myself
just say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
When someone gives you, listen, it's true. It's true. So put that story in your head and believe it.
Yes, you're right. So when I was asked that, I didn't really associate the timeline with it. And so right now we're in the strategy phase. We're trying to figure out coaching, equipment, season planning, because World Championships is in Norway, which is my home track. I do very well there. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of it's not placed yet, but I can feel the pressure coming as far as expectation, because this year, a lot of athletes across the world will be taking a year off, taking time off, or, doing medical stuff, whatever that is. Right. So we don't really know what the roster will look like on the lineup. So it's a great opportunity to try to like hit the ground running for this quad and kind of start off with some accolades. So that's kind of what we're at right now. But prioritizing at this moment, the next 2 weeks, is Mystique unplugging from skeleton and kind of just really finding that space to kind of reset.
In the sun.
Yes.
No ice, except that maybe some ice in your glass.
Maybe.
Well,
yes.
When's the World Championship in Norway? When is that?
It is the last 2 weeks of February, 2027.
Okay.
And it's in Lillehammer.
All right. So next year.
Yes.
Well, I will be thinking of you and rooting for you from afar. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really enjoyed our conversation, Mystique.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was an amazing conversation, and it was different, which I like and I appreciate. So thank you for the questions. They were awesome.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to write me a letter asking for advice, please send it to me at deardearsugar@gmail.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Happy trails, and I'll see you next week. Mind Over Mountain with Cheryl Strayed is an iHeart Women's sports production, produced by Brittany Brown and Rodney Brown of Barbara Jean Productions. Supervising producer is Kaylin West at Realm. Associate producer, Amaya Brathwaite. Our executive producers are Molly Barton, Jerry Carita, Grace Fuse, and Jesse Katz. Our theme song is composed by Gramoscope Music. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Happy trails, and I'll see you next week.